The signal came through at exactly 3 hours past midnight ship time. It was weak, it was broken, but it was there. Commander of the Galactic Patrol vessel Bright Star sat up straight in his chair when his communications officer turned to look at him. The officer was a species with blue skin and large black eyes. His name was, and he had worked with for 5 years. In all that time, had never seen him look so confused. Commander said slowly, "We are receiving an SOS signal. It is coming from the void belt." Felt his stomach tighten. The void belt was a dangerous place. It was a region of space filled with broken asteroids, dead planets, and things that nobody talked about. Ships that went into the void belt did not always come back out. "What ship?" asked. Checked his screen. "A human freighter. The registration says it is called the Iron Dawn. It left port 3 weeks ago. It was carrying medicine and food supplies to the outer colonies." Stood up and walked to the main viewing window. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the darkness of the void belt, people were in trouble. Maybe they were hurt. Maybe they were dying. Maybe they were already dead. "How old is the signal?" he asked. 4 days, replied. "The signal is very weak. It is repeating on a loop. No voice, no additional data, just the basic SOS code." 4 days. That was a long time. If the crew of the Iron Dawn had been in trouble for 4 days, there was a good chance that nobody was left alive, but was not the kind of commander who left people behind. He had joined the Galactic Patrol to help others. He would not stop doing that now. "Set a course for the void belt," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The bridge crew moved quickly. Within minutes, the Bright Star was turning toward the darkness. Watched the stars shift outside the window. He felt a cold feeling in his chest, like ice water running through his veins. He had dealt with humans before. They were a strange species. They came from a planet called Earth, a world that most other species considered too dangerous to live on. Earth had violent weather, dangerous animals, toxic plants, and diseases that could kill in hours. The fact that humans had not only survived on such a world, but had actually become the dominant species was something that made other aliens very nervous. Was not nervous. He respected humans. He had seen them work hard, laugh loud, and fight with everything they had. They were good allies and terrible enemies. He hoped that whatever had happened to the Iron Dawn, there were still some humans left alive to save. The journey to the void belt took 18 hours. Slept for 6 of those hours, but his sleep was not peaceful. He dreamed of empty ships and silent corridors. He dreamed of blood on metal walls. When he woke up, his uniform was wet with sweat. "Commander," said as walked onto the bridge, "we have visual contact with the Iron Dawn." Looked at the main screen. The human freighter was floating in the darkness like a dead fish. Its lights were off. Its engines were cold. The only sign of life was the weak pulse of the distress beacon, still sending its simple message into the void. "Life signs?" asked. A young officer named Vila checked her instruments. She was a species with gray skin and 4 arms. She was very good at her job. "I am detecting no life signs, Commander, but the ship's hull is very thick. Our sensors might not be able to see through it." Nodded. That was possible. Human ships were built strong. They had to be because humans did dangerous things. They flew into asteroid fields. They explored unknown planets. They fought creatures that other species ran away from. Their ships were built to survive anything. "Prepare a boarding team," said. "I will lead it myself." Turned to look at him. "Commander is that wise. We do not know what happened on that ship." "That is exactly why I need to go," replied. "If there are survivors, they need to see a friendly face, and if there are enemies, I need to see them for myself." The boarding team assembled in the shuttle bay. There were 8 of them in total. Had chosen a mix of species, including 2, 3, and 2 members of a warrior species called the. They were large and strong, with green skin and sharp teeth. They were not afraid of anything. The shuttle crossed the short distance between the bright star and the Iron Dawn. As they got closer, could see the damage on the human ship's hull. There were long scratches in the metal, as if something with very big claws had tried to tear its way inside. "What made those marks?" one of them asked. His name was, and he was the biggest member of the team. "I do not know," admitted, "but I think we will find out soon." The shuttle docked with the Iron Dawn at an emergency airlock. The seal was good, which meant the ship still had air inside. Took that as a good sign. If the ship had air, maybe it had survivors too. The airlock door opened with a loud hiss. Beyond it was darkness. Turned on his helmet light and stepped inside. The air was cold and smelled like metal and something else, something he did not want to think about. The corridors of the Iron Dawn were empty. The walls were covered with scratch marks just like the outside of the ship. In some places there were dark stains on the floor. Knew what those stains were. He had seen blood before. "Spread out," he ordered quietly. "Search every room, look for survivors." The team moved through the ship like ghosts. They checked the crew quarters and found empty beds with blankets thrown on the floor. They checked the medical bay and found broken equipment and spilled medicine. They checked the bridge and found the captain's chair empty, the screens still showing the last course the ship had taken. But they did not find any bodies. "Commander," Vila said through the communication system, "this is strange. There is blood here. There are signs of a fight, but there are no dead. Where did everyone go?" Did not have an answer. He stood in the middle of the bridge and looked around. The humans had been here. They had been attacked. They had fought back, but where were they now? The distress beacon was still pulsing, sending its signal out into the void. But whoever had sent that signal was gone. Or were they? Felt the hair on his neck stand up. He had been in many dangerous situations in his life. He had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, his instincts were telling him that something was very wrong. "Everyone stay alert," he said into his communicator. "I do not think we are alone on this ship." The darkness seemed to grow thicker around them. Somewhere in the shadows, something was watching, something was waiting, and had the terrible feeling that they had just walked into a trap. Specialist moved through the lower deck of the Iron Dawn with her scanner held in front of her like a shield. She was a like commander, but she was younger and had less experience. This was only her third rescue mission. The first two had been simple: a broken engine, a medical emergency, nothing like this. The corridor ahead of her was dark. Her helmet light only showed about 10 meters in front of her. Beyond that, there was nothing but black. She could hear the sound of her own breathing inside her helmet. It was too fast, too loud. "Slow down," she told herself quietly. "Breathe, focus." She checked her scanner again. It was showing strange readings. There were heat signatures somewhere in the ship, but they kept moving. Every time she tried to focus on one, it disappeared and appeared somewhere else. It was like trying to catch smoke with her fingers. "Commander," she said into her communicator, "I am in the lower cargo section. I am getting unusual readings on my scanner. Something is here, but I cannot tell what it is." There was static on the line for a moment. Then's voice came through. "Describe the readings, specialist." "Heat signatures. Multiple. They are moving fast, too fast for any species I know." Paused. "They are also coming from the walls." "The walls?" "Yes, sir. It is like something is moving inside the walls themselves." There was a long silence. Could hear other members of the team talking in the background. She heard say something about leaving the ship immediately. She heard Vila arguing that they needed to finish the search. Finally spoke again. "Continue your search, specialist, but be careful. If you see anything dangerous, retreat immediately." "Yes, sir," replied. She did not feel brave. She felt scared. But she was a member of the Galactic Patrol. She had a job to do. The cargo hold was huge. It was filled with large metal containers, stacked 3 high and stretching back into the darkness. Walked between the rows of containers. her light moving left and right as she searched for any sign of the crew. She found the first sign on the floor. It was a handprint, a human handprint pressed into the metal in dried blood. The fingers were pointing toward the back of the cargo hold, as if someone had been dragging themselves in that direction. Followed the trail. There were more handprints, more blood, but still no bodies. It was like the humans had been hurt, had crawled away, and had simply vanished. "This makes no sense," she whispered to herself. She stopped when she reached the back wall of the cargo hold. The blood trail ended here, at a large ventilation shaft. The cover of the shaft had been removed and placed on the floor. The opening was big enough for a person to fit inside. Pointed her light into the shaft. She saw nothing but metal walls stretching into darkness. Had the humans gone inside? Had they been trying to escape from something, or had something pulled them in? A sound made her spin around. It was a scratching noise like claws on metal. It came from above her. Looked up, her light moved across the ceiling. For a moment she saw nothing. Then she saw it. Eyes, 2 yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. They were watching her. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The eyes blinked once slowly, and then they were gone. Whatever had been watching her had disappeared into the shadows. "Commander," she finally managed to say, "there is something here in the cargo hold. It was on the ceiling." "Get out of there," ordered. "Fall back to the main corridor." Ran. She did not look back. She did not stop until she reached the main corridor, where and 2 other team members were waiting. The big grabbed her arm and pulled her behind him. "What did you see?" he asked. "Eyes," said, still breathing hard. "Yellow eyes. It was watching me from the ceiling." His face was hard to read, but thought she saw fear there. And if I was afraid, then things were very bad indeed. Commander arrived a few minutes later with the rest of the team. His face was serious. He listened to his report without interrupting, then looked at the entrance to the cargo hold. "We are not dealing with a normal enemy," he said quietly. "Whatever attacked this ship is still here, and it is hunting us." "Then we should leave," said. "We should go back to the Bright Star and call for reinforcements." Shook his head. "We cannot leave, not yet. There might still be humans alive on this ship. If they survived the initial attack, they might be hiding somewhere. We need to find them." "And if they are dead?" Vila asked. "Then we need to know what killed them, so we can warn others, so we can stop this from happening again." The team moved through the ship more carefully now. They stayed together in groups of 3. They watched the ceiling as well as the floor. They jumped at every sound, every flicker of shadow. Found herself walking next to. The big kept his weapon ready, his eyes constantly scanning the darkness ahead. He did not say much, but his presence made feel a little bit safer. "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" she asked him quietly. Was silent for a moment. "Once," he finally said. "On Mai, there are caves deep underground where things live, things that have never seen the sun. They hunt in the dark. They drag their prey down into the depths." He paused. "We do not go into those caves, ever." "What do you think is on this ship?" Looked at her with his dark eyes. "I do not know, but I think it is worse than anything in those caves." They reached the engineering section. The doors were sealed, but they were also damaged. Large holes had been torn through the metal, as if something had ripped its way inside. "The humans were here," Vila said, studying the damage. "They sealed the doors. They tried to keep something out." "Or they tried to keep something in," said. They entered the engineering section through one of the holes. Inside, they found more blood, more scratch marks, more signs of a terrible fight, but still no bodies. It was here that noticed something strange. Among all the claw marks and damage, there were other marks too. Marks that looked like they had been made by human weapons. Burns from energy guns. Cuts from sharp blades. "Commander," she said, pointing at the marks. "Look at this. The humans fought back. They did not just run, they fought." Examine the marks closely. You are right, specialist. They used weapons, they made a stand here. He looked around the room. But the question remains, where are they now? A voice came through the communicator. It was one of the team members who had been searching another part of the ship. Commander, I found something. In the crew recreation area. You need to see this. They made their way to the recreation area quickly. When they arrived, they found a scene that made blood turn cold. The room had been turned into a battlefield. Furniture was broken and scattered everywhere. The walls were covered with claw marks and weapons burns, and in the center of the room there was a pile of bodies. But they were not human bodies. They were creatures, horrible creatures with gray skin, long claws, and yellow eyes, the same eyes that had watched in the cargo hold. There were at least 10 of them, and they were all dead. The humans killed them, said, his voice filled with surprise. They killed these things. Walked around the pile of dead creatures, studying them carefully. These are void stalkers. I have heard stories about them. They live in the darkness between stars. They attack ships and eat the crews. No one has ever survived an attack. No one except these humans, Vila said. Looked at the dead creatures and felt something change inside her. She had been afraid before. She had thought the humans were victims who needed to be saved, but now she was starting to understand. The humans were not victims, they were survivors, they were fighters, and somewhere on this ship they were still alive. She was sure of it. The discovery of the dead void stalkers changed everything. The rescue team looked at the pile of gray bodies with a mixture of horror and wonder. These creatures were supposed to be unstoppable. They were the monsters that parents told their children about to make them behave. They were the reason ships avoided the void belt. And the humans had killed them. Commander stood over the largest of the dead creatures. It was nearly 3 meters tall, with arms that ended in claws as long as his forearm. Its yellow eyes were still open, staring at nothing. There was a deep cut across its throat, made by something very sharp. A blade did this, said quietly. A human blade. Nodded. Humans carry knives, it is strange. They have energy weapons, they have technology, but they still carry blades made of metal. He paused. I always thought it was foolish. Now I am not so sure. Moved around the room, scanning everything with her device. The readings were still strange. There were heat signatures in the walls, in the ceiling, in the floor. The void stalkers had not all been killed. There were more of them, hiding in the darkness, waiting. Commander, she said, we are surrounded. The creatures are everywhere. They are watching us right now. The team moved closer together. Weapons were raised. Eyes searched the shadows. The air felt heavy and cold. Why do they not attack? Vila asked. I do not know, admitted. Maybe they are afraid. They attacked the humans and the humans killed many of them. Maybe they have learned to be careful. Or maybe they are waiting for something, said. His voice was low and serious. Maybe they want us to go deeper into the ship, into a trap. It was a frightening thought, but knew they could not turn back now. They had found proof that the humans had survived the first attack. They had to find the humans themselves. We continue, he said, but we move slowly. We watch each other's backs. We do not get separated. The team moved deeper into the ship. They passed through storage rooms and sleeping quarters. They found more signs of fighting, more dead void stalkers, more blood on the walls and floors, but still no human bodies and still no living humans. Noticed something as they walked. The ship was changing. In the front sections there had been chaos. Things thrown everywhere, walls torn apart, equipment destroyed. But as they moved toward the back of the ship, things became more organized. The damage was still there, but it looked different. It looked planned. Commander, she said, look at this. She pointed to a corridor ahead. The lights were broken, like everywhere else, but the walls were different. Metal plates had been welded over the ventilation shafts. Heavy objects had been placed at specific points, creating a narrow path that anyone walking through would have to follow. A killing zone, said with respect in his voice. The humans made this. If the creatures try to come through here, they will have to come one at a time. The humans can cut them down. Examine the setup carefully. This is not the work of panicked victims. This is the work of soldiers, hunters. He looked at his team. The humans are not hiding from the Void Stalkers. They are hunting them. A sound came from ahead. It was soft, barely there, like fabric moving against metal. The team froze. I heard it too, whispered. Held up his hand, signaling everyone to stay still. He strained his ears, trying to hear past the sound of his own heartbeat. There was something there, something moving in the darkness ahead. And then there was a voice. It was quiet, human, speaking in a language that the translation devices could not understand. Had heard it before. It was Korean, one of the many languages humans spoke on there. "Hello," called out. "We are with the Galactic Patrol. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." Silence. Then the voice spoke again, this time in Galactic Common, the language everyone used. "How many?" It was a woman's voice, calm and steady, despite everything that had happened. "8," replied. "8 rescue personnel. We have a ship nearby. We can get you out of here." Another pause, then, "Turn off your lights." "What?" "Turn off your lights, all of them now." Hesitated. Turning off their lights would leave them blind in the darkness. They would be helpless. But there was something in the woman's voice that made him trust her. She was not afraid. She knew exactly what she was doing. "Do it," he ordered. The lights went out one by one. Darkness swallowed them completely. Felt her heart pounding in her chest. She could not see anything. She could not even see her own hand in front of her face. Then she saw them. Eyes, dozens of yellow eyes glowing in the darkness all around them. The Void Stalkers had been there the whole time, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to attack. And now that moment had come. A scream started to build in his throat, but before it could escape, something else happened. More eyes appeared, but these were not yellow. They were dim, barely visible, human eyes reflecting the faint light from the Void Stalker's own gaze. The humans were there. They had been there the whole time, hiding in the walls, in the ceiling, in places the rescue team had walked right past without seeing. And they were not victims. They were predators. Everything happened at once. The Void Stalkers screamed and lunged forward, but the humans moved faster. They came out of the shadows like ghosts, silent and deadly. Heard the sound of blades cutting through air and flesh. She heard the screams of the creatures as they died. The battle lasted less than a minute. When it was over, the human voice spoke again. "You can turn your lights on now." The rescue team turned on their helmet lights. What they saw made them take a step back. The corridor was filled with dead Void Stalkers. There were at least 20 of them, all killed in the darkness, and standing among them were the humans. There were 7 of them, 4 men and 3 women. They were covered in blood, some of it theirs, most of it not. They carried blades and makeshift weapons made from pieces of the ship. Their eyes were hard and cold. A man stepped forward. He was tall and broad, with a scar running down the left side of his face. He looked at Commander with no expression. "I am Captain of the Iron Dawn," he said. "Thank you for coming, but as you can see, we did not need saving." Could not speak. He had seen warriors before. He had seen soldiers and fighters from 100 different worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. These humans had been trapped in the darkness with creatures that ate entire ships, and they had won. "How?" he finally managed to ask. "How did you survive?" Captain looked at the dead creatures on the floor. A small smile appeared on his face. "We are from Earth," he said simply. "We have been hunting in the dark since before we could make fire. These things thought they were the predators." His smile grew wider. They were wrong. The woman who had spoken earlier stepped forward. Her name was Myra, and she was the ship's first officer. She was smaller than the others, but there was a dangerous look in her eyes. "We have been tracking them for 3 days," she said. learning their patterns, setting traps, killing them one by one. She looked at the rescue team. We sent the distress signal not because we needed help. We sent it because we knew you would come, and we knew the stalkers would follow you. Felt cold. You used us as bait. Myra nodded. Yes, we needed to draw them out, into the open where we could finish them. It was cruel. It was calculating. It was the kind of thing that made other species afraid of humans. But looking at the dead creatures on the floor, looking at the 7 humans who had survived against impossible odds, could not bring herself to be angry. She could only be amazed. And a little bit afraid. Captain led the combined group through the ship. The corridors that had seemed so dark and frightening before now felt different. The rescue team walked among the humans, watching them move with a strange kind of respect. These were not normal people. They were survivors of something terrible, and they had come out the other side harder and sharper than before. Commander walked beside Captain. He had many questions, but he was not sure where to start. Finally, he asked the simplest one. How many were you when they attacked? His face did not change expression. 23, we are 7 now. 16 dead. 16 humans lost to the Void Stalkers. But the way he said it with no emotion in his voice made it clear that this was not a tragedy to him. It was a cost, a price paid for victory. I am sorry for your losses, said. Do not be, replied. They died fighting. They died protecting their crew. They died human. He paused. There is no better way to die. They reached a large room that the humans had turned into a command center. Maps were drawn on the walls. Schedules were written on broken screens. Weapons were organized on tables. It looked like a military base, not a civilian freighter. We took control of the situation on the 2nd day, Myra explained, walking over to one of the maps. The stalkers hit us hard at first. They came through the ventilation system, through the walls, through every crack and hole in the ship. We lost 8 people in the first hour. She pointed to marks on the map. But we adapted. We sealed the vulnerable points. We set up kill zones. We learned how they moved, how they hunted, how they communicated. And then we started hunting them. Looked at the map. It was detailed and precise. Every corridor was marked. Every ventilation shaft was noted. Every place where a stalker could hide was identified. You did all this in 3 days, she asked. A young man named Jin stepped forward. He was the youngest of the survivors, barely more than a boy, but his eyes were old, too old for his face. We had to, he said. The alternative was death, and we do not accept death easily. Vila studied the weapons on the table. They were simple things, blades made from ship metal, clubs wrapped in wire, a few energy weapons that looked like they had been repaired many times. Your guns, she said. Why did you not just shoot the creatures? Myra shook her head. The stalkers are not afraid of energy weapons. The beams hurt them, but they keep coming. They heal fast. They feel no pain. She picked up one of the blades. It was long and curved with a dark stain on the edge. But they cannot heal from this. Cut off their heads and they stay dead. You had to get close to them, said. There was something new in his voice. Respect. You had to fight them face to face. Yes, Captain said. That is how humans fight. We get close. We look our enemies in the eyes. We make sure they know who killed them. There was a sound from somewhere in the ship, a distant scream. The remaining stalkers were still out there, hiding in the darkness. They had seen what the humans could do. They were afraid, but they were also hungry. There are more of them, said. About 30, replied calmly. Maybe 35. We have killed more than 60 already. The ones left are the smart ones, the careful ones. They will not attack directly anymore. Then how will you kill them? Looked at the rescue team. His eyes moved from face to face, studying each of them. That depends on you, Commander. Are you willing to help us finish this? Felt the weight of the question. This was not a rescue mission anymore. This was something else. A war, a hunt. And the humans were asking him to join them. He looked at his team, looked nervous but determined. Vila was curious, almost excited, was holding his weapon, ready for battle, and was watching the humans with wide eyes as if she was seeing them for the first time. "What do you need us to do?" asked. Nodded as if he had expected this answer. "The stalkers are gathering in the engine room. They think it is safe there. They think we cannot get to them." A cold smile appeared on his face. "They are wrong." The plan was explained in detail. The rescue team would approach the engine room from the front, making noise, drawing attention. The stalkers would focus on them, expecting an easy attack, and while they were distracted, the humans would come from behind. It was a simple plan, but simple plans worked best in the dark. "One more thing," said before they left. He walked over to a table and picked up a bundle of cloth. Inside were 7 blades, similar to the ones the humans carried. He handed them to. "These are for your team. Energy weapons will hurt the stalkers, but to kill them you need these." Took one of the blades. It was heavier than he expected. The metal was cold against his palm. He had never killed anything with a blade before. He had always used guns, always kept his distance. But today would be different. "Thank you," he said. Looked at him for a long moment. "Do not thank me yet, Commander. The battle is not over and some of us may not survive." He paused. "But if we die fighting. That is the human way." The groups separated. The rescue team moved toward the engine room from the main corridor. The humans disappeared into the shadows, moving through secret paths they had discovered during their 3 days of hunting. Walked at the front of the group, holding her blade in one hand and her scanner in the other. The heat signatures were growing stronger. The stalkers were ahead, waiting in the darkness. "I am scared," she admitted quietly to who was walking beside her. The look down at her. "That is good. Fear keeps you alive. It makes you careful. Only fools are not afraid." "Are you afraid?" Was silent for a moment. "Yes, I am afraid, but I am also excited. This is what I was born for, to fight, to protect, to stand against the darkness." He held up his blade. "And now I fight alongside humans, warriors who have earned my respect." They reached the entrance to the engine room. The door had been torn open long ago. Beyond it was darkness, and in that darkness things moved. Raised his hand and signaled the team to stop. He took a deep breath. Then he stepped forward into the darkness. "We know you are there," he shouted. His voice echoed through the room. "We are coming for you. There is nowhere left to hide." The response was immediate. Yellow eyes appeared everywhere, dozens of them. The stalkers screamed and charged toward the rescue team. Raised his blade. Behind him, his team did the same. This was the moment. This was where everything would be decided. And from the shadows behind the stalkers, the humans emerged. Silent, deadly, unstoppable. The battle for the Iron Dawn had begun. The engine room became a storm of violence. The Void Stalkers charged from the front, their yellow eyes blazing with hunger and rage. They expected easy prey. They expected the alien rescue team to break and run, like so many others had before. They were wrong. Commander stood his ground. The first stalker came at him with claws extended, screaming its terrible scream. Did not think. He moved on instinct, stepping to the side and bringing his blade down in a single, clean motion. The creature fell, its head separated from its body. Around him, his team was fighting. Was a force of nature, his massive arms swinging his blade with deadly power. He killed 3 stalkers in the first 10 seconds, roaring with the battle fury of his people. And Vila fought back to back, covering each other as they cut down any creature that came close. And was there too, fighting beside them. Her fear had not disappeared. It was still there, cold and sharp in her chest, but she used it. She let it make her faster, smarter, more dangerous. Her blade found its mark again and again. But it was the humans who truly won the battle. They came from the shadows like spirits of death. Captain led them, his face twisted into a terrible smile as he cut through the stalkers like they were made of paper. Myra was beside him, smaller but no less deadly, her movements precise and economical. Jin fought with the energy of youth, making up for his lack of experience with raw determination. The other 4 humans spread out through the engine room, each one finding their own battles, their own enemies, their own victories. They did not speak. They did not shout. They simply killed with a cold efficiency that was almost beautiful to watch. A stalker lunged at from the side. She did not see it coming, but before its claws could reach her, a human was there. A woman named with short hair and a long scar across her cheek. She killed the stalker with a single thrust of her blade, then looked at with eyes that showed nothing. "Stay focused," she said. "The battle is not over." It was not a kindness, it was a command, and obeyed. The fight lasted 15 minutes. It felt like hours. By the end, the floor was covered with dead stalkers. More than 40 of them, their yellow eyes finally dark and empty. The air smelled like blood and fear and death. Commander stood in the middle of the carnage, breathing hard. His blade was coated with black blood. His uniform was torn in several places, but he was alive. His team was alive. All 7 humans were still standing. "Is that all of them?" asked. Captain cleaned his blade on the cloth wrapped around his arm. "No, there are more, hiding in the deepest parts of the ship, maybe 10, maybe 15. He looked at the entrance to the lower levels. "They will not come out now. They have seen too many of their kind die. They will wait until we leave." "Then we stay," said. "We finish them." Shook his head. "No, we have done enough. The ship is damaged. The supplies are running low. We need to leave while we still can." Frowned. "You would leave enemies behind. Living enemies." "Sometimes that is necessary, Commander." Walked over to a console and started pressing buttons. "But we will not leave them with nothing." The console beeped. A countdown appeared on the screen, 2 hours. "What did you do?" Vila asked. "I set the reactor to overload," explained calmly. "When it explodes, it will destroy the ship and everything inside. The stalkers will die, and any other ship that enters the void belt will see the explosion. They will know that something happened here. They will know to stay away." It was cold, it was calculated, it was very, very human. The combined group moved quickly through the ship toward the docking area. The remaining stalkers watched from the shadows, but they did not attack. They had learned their lesson. They knew that attacking these creatures meant death. When they reached the shuttle, turned to look back at the Iron Dawn one last time. It had been a simple freighter, carrying medicine and supplies to distant colonies. Now it was a graveyard, a monument to what humans could do when pushed to their limits. "Commander," said from inside the shuttle, "we need to leave. The reactor will explode soon." Nodded and stepped aboard. The shuttle detached from the Iron Dawn and moved away slowly. Through the viewport, they watched the freighter grow smaller and smaller against the endless black of the void belt. Captain sat in one of the passenger seats, his blade across his lap. His crew sat around him, silent and still. They had survived something that should have killed them, but there was no celebration, no relief, only the quiet acceptance of warriors who knew the fight was never truly over. "Tell me something," Captain said. "Why did you send the distress signal? You said it was to draw the stalkers out, but you must have known that we would come, that we might die trying to rescue you." Looked at him with those hard, cold eyes. "Yes, I knew." "And you did it anyway." "Yes," paused. "Because we needed to kill them all, Commander, every last one. If even one stalker escaped, it would breed, it would multiply, it would attack other ships, other crews, other families." He leaned back in his seat. "We sent the signal because it was the only way to make sure that never happened. Your lives were at risk, but so were the lives of everyone else in this sector." It was cruel math, cold logic, the kind of thinking that made other species uncomfortable around humans. But it was also right. Could not deny that. The stalkers were a threat to everyone. Eliminating them, even at the cost of putting a rescue team in danger, was the best choice for the most people. He did not have to like it, but he understood it. Behind them, the Iron Dawn exploded. The reactor overload created a ball of fire that lit up the darkness like a new star. For a moment, the void belt was not dark at all. It was bright and hot and alive. Then the light faded, and the darkness returned. Looked at the readings on his console. No survivors detected from the explosion. The void stalkers are gone. Myra nodded slowly. Then it is over. They reached the bright star an hour later. The crew watched through the windows as the human survivors came aboard. Word had already spread about what had happened, about the distress signal, about the stalkers, about the battle in the darkness. When Captain walked onto the bridge, every member of the crew stood up. Not because they were ordered to, not because of rank or protocol, but because they recognized something in this man and his crew. They recognized warriors, survivors, predators. Commander wrote his report that night. He spent hours trying to find the right words. How do you describe what he had seen? How do you explain to the Galactic Patrol Command that a crew of civilian humans had done what no military force in history had done before? In the end, he kept it simple. The crew of the Iron Dawn encountered void stalkers in the void belt, he wrote. They survived. They fought back. They eliminated the threat. 16 humans died, but the remaining 7 killed over 100 stalkers in 3 days of continuous combat. He paused, then added one more line. Recommendation: do not underestimate humans, ever. Captain stood at the viewport of the bright star, looking out at the stars. Myra came to stand beside him. They did not speak for a long time. What happens now? She finally asked. Was silent for a moment. We go home, we rest, we remember our dead. He turned to look at her, and then we find another ship, another crew, another mission. You want to go back out there, after everything? Smiled. It was a small smile, tired and worn but real. Of course. The galaxy is dark, Myra, full of things that hunt and kill and destroy. Someone needs to stand against that darkness. Someone needs to show the universe that not everything is afraid. He looked back at the stars. His eyes were hard but not cold, determined but not cruel, human. We are from a Myra. We have been fighting since the beginning of our species. We will never stop. We cannot stop. He paused. And maybe that is what the galaxy needs. Not protectors, not saviors, but hunters. Predators who are willing to go into the darkness and kill the things that live there. Myra nodded slowly. She understood. Behind them on the bridge, the alien crew watched. They saw 2 humans standing together, looking out at the infinite black. They saw survivors of something terrible, warriors who had faced death and won. And for the first time in their lives, they understood why the galaxy was afraid of Earth. Not because humans were cruel, not because they were evil, but because they were strong, stronger than anyone had imagined, stronger than anything had a right to be. The had emerged from the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same.